My dear brothers and sisters, in the liturgical calendar, we have just three feasts of birthdays. Birth of our Lord, birth of St. John the Baptist, and birth of Our Lady. The readings that we heard today do not speak at all about the birth of the Blessed Virgin Mary. When you look at the scriptures, Gospel of St. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, we find nothing mentioned about Our Lady's birth. So what are the sources to trace the birth of Our Lady? As on 8th of this month. First of all, this date was fixed after the church fixed the date of the Immaculate Conception of the Blessed Virgin Mary, which is on 8th of December. 9 months, we got this date. Now look at the sources. We have to depend on traditions. Tradition that has come down to us from the 1st century onwards. And for the books which the church doesn't recognize as authentic, like the book of St. James, we speak about the birth of the Blessed Virgin Mary. This is what we read there. We read about her parents, Joachim and Anne, very devout, holy people, and yet God had not blessed them with a child. And so, as you know, on those days, the custom, they said this is a punishment from God. But Joachim and Anne were not disappointed. They had a trust in Yahweh, in God. They knew that God will surely listen to their prayers. So one day when Joachim went to pray in the temple, he was insulted because he was childless. And therefore, Joachim decides to go to the wilderness to pray and to do penances. And meanwhile, his wife, Anna, is at home, also praying devoutly to bless them, even though they are far beyond the age of giving birth. And we read there, the angel of the Lord appeared to both of them and blessed them and said, "You will conceive a child. And this child will be great, and they offer this child to God's service." And therefore, God blessed Joachim and Anne with a child, and they gave the child the name Mary. This is what we read in the books of St. James. It's of course not recognized by the church as authentic. Let's forget about that. This is how we trace the birth of Our Lady. This is as regard the history or the sources are concerned. And when I look at this feast, what does the feast remind us? We can summarize Our Lady in just one word. Fiat, let it be done as you desire. Now this response of Our Lady to the angel who was sent by Yahweh to her, announcing the good news, was not a passive one, which means, okay, as you say it, let it be so. It was a very active one. And she lived this so-called her yes to God right through her life. When you look at her life for Our Lady, you realize that every time she had to say yes and live that yes. When they brought the child Jesus to the temple to offer to God, she was told by Simeon that this child will be the source of pain to you, of suffering to you. And Lady accepts that and reflects over it. What does it mean? And she realized only course of the time what it really meant. The suffering she had to go, and after every moment she had to say, yes, your will be done. When the child was lost, 12 years old, when they gone to offer sacrifice, Mary and Joseph had to go hunting for the child. Imagine the pain, the anguish the mother and the father went through when the child was lost. 12-year-old boy was lost. You can imagine when if a son or daughter is lost, what pain and agony you have to go through. But she said, yes, this was what I said in the beginning when I accept Mother of God. She also had to say yes right through the 30 years when she brought up this child. and made him so-called a man. And then she says yes again when this man decided to leave her and start his work for 3 years. And all this time, Mary accompanied this young man in the world, and she saw and heard how authorities, in a way, will criticize this man who was doing wonderful work, her own son of God. And then there were the Pharisees, the scribes, and all time insulting, criticizing, want to do away with him. And Mary said, yes, Lord, your will be done. And finally, she saw her son being arrested, tortured, and given a cruel death only meant for the worst criminals of those times, death on the cross. And Mary said, yes, your will be done. And then when the man was brought down on the cross, she held her son in her hand. We have the Pietà. And Mary said, yes, your will be done. But that was not the end of it. When the Lord rose for 3 days, the first person whom the Lord appeared is to her own mother. And therefore, once again, the joy we shall experience when she said yes to God first. And now again, yes, in a way has borne fruit. Look at our own lives. When we say yes to God, it may be painful, yes, but the ultimate end is always the joyful yes. So maybe we could reflect on ourselves as Mary fulfilled her purpose in life to bring forth a child, to bring forth, in a way, the good news that this child, in a way, will be the source of our redemption. What is our role in this world? Why did we come into the world? Are we just living day in and day out, year in and out, without any purpose? We know children already in the 10th standard think of becoming this and becoming that and becoming this. Is that God's will? So when you say yes to God, it reflects, is it God's will that I should be at this moment this particular person in the world? Does God want me at this moment to fulfill His will in us, the specific purpose? So let's today pause for a while and ask God, help us to live our yes. It is said at baptism, of course said by our godparents and parents, it said, I renounce Satan, I'll only walk your path. Are we living that yes? Today also pray for our mothers who said yes when they said to the partner, I take you as my husband or my wife rest of my life. That yes, the mothers of course, was a joyful yes. And let them bring up children, living that yes, fulfilling them, giving them the love of which they require at that age, and bringing them up and making them men. We pause and pray for ourselves. Pray for mothers. Pray for our children. Pray for children just born today, that God may bless them. Today is, as you know, it's the feast of Lady Valankani. If you go to the history of that feast also, there are a lot of legends. Sorry to say that. Stories. The 16th century, when the lady appeared at 3 different times to 3 different people. Finally, Our Lady appeared to sailors whose ship was almost being shipwrecked. The sailors prayed to her for their safety, and they promised to build a chapel, a church at Valankani. They were saved. The Portuguese built a church there, or rather, the old church was repaired. That's how the devotion to Our Lady Valankani arose. Now people flock there to pray for Our Lady of good health. May Our Lady bless with good health today and always, and help you to achieve a goal in life.